Hi, I'm Mal from the Money Study, bringing you another episode of our Take 10 Challenge. And here we are at number 100. We got there. This part 9 of our series here in buying an investment property. And this is all about using a conveyancer, getting all that legal aspects of the transaction and getting it right. There's my disclaimer, facts and figures, information only, no advice in today's session. Yep, look, you can indeed do your own conveyancing. What we mean by that is all the legal paperwork in signing over the house from one owner to another. It can be done, you can do it, you can do your own homework, get it all done and save yourself some money. But dare I warn you that this whole settlement of the property is a fairly complex undertaking, and certainly things can and will go wrong. And there are things that you may miss because this is not something that you do every day. And I'm assuming you're not doing it every day, in which case I would rather see you get a professional to do this to make sure that things just don't go astray, because you could indeed lose your whole deposit if you actually get this wrong. So be careful and get yourself a good conveyancer. Now, of course, the conveyancer could be a specialised, just what they do is just conveyancing. They just do paperwork relating to the sale and purchase of property, or it could be a solicitor, just a legal practitioner of some kind. I would probably suggest, if you're going to go to down this path, getting someone who really, that's all they do. They just specialise in property conveyancing. They're going to be right on top of it. They'll have all the procedures in place. And therefore, hopefully, they won't miss anything. They will read the fine print. They actually will read the fine print, and not only that, they'll understand it. This whole aspect came into play with my family. With one of my daughters was buying a house, and it was a pretty nice, 2 or 3 bedroom unit, whatever it was, here in Canberra. And we went along and had a look, and everything looked okay, and the price seemed to be pretty reasonable. And we put in an offer, and the offer was accepted. So it was all a case of all go ahead, but the building report was sent to our conveyancer. And now this conveyancer got back to us pretty post haste, saying that on about page 80 of the contract, that there was a issue relating to the fact that the whole property was a unit in a block of about 10, I think. Then the whole block was cladded in that flammable cladding, in which case it needed to be replaced. And all of a sudden, hidden, I'll say on about page 80, was the fact that she'd be up for another, I can't remember the number, but $25,000-$30,000. She would have to move out of a home for a period of 6 to 8 weeks. There wasn't not enough money in the sinking fund of the body corporate to be able to pay for it, and there'd be other costs and unknown costs as well. And so this whole thing all of a sudden pushed the amount of money, let alone the inconvenience, of course, just to a point where basically my daughter decided to pull out of the transaction. Her conveyancer charged her $150 for that. To me, that was probably the best $150 she ever spent, because I'm quite sure we could have looked at that and not picked that up. Because I say, when we were speaking to the real estate, they made no mentions of any issues. There was no comment, and they must have known this scenario. But the real estate people, obviously, they're trying to sell it, made no comments to us whatsoever, which was a bit sad when you've got a young person buying their first home and they're going to just milk it for whatever they can. So a good conveyancer, certainly in that circumstance, was $150 of good money. What the conveyancer does is they prepare the documents. So they prepare the documents that everyone's going to be signing. They effectively will clarify it to make sure you understand what's going on. And of course, they'll lodge those legal documents with the appropriate authorities there, like the contract for sale, any memorandums of transfer that go with that contract. But they will go through the property and a certificate of title to make sure that there's no sort of new highways going to be built through your backyard, or some sort of water pipe that needs to be extended or improved or whatever, just to make sure that there's no sort of easements or other things that you're not aware of that could impinge upon your the enjoyment of your property further on down the track there. Always good to know up front before we put our money on the line there. Your money that you pay as a deposit gets put into a trust account. So by putting into a trust account, it's not going to, you can't be, the person getting the house is not going to run away with your money until such time as the transaction is going to go through. So they're keeping an eye on that deposit to make sure it's in a safe place. Everything's legal until the date of the transfer. They will calculate all the adjustment of the rates and the taxes. So you're buying a property sort of halfway through a quarter, in which case there will be some pro rata rates for the quarter, and perhaps there are things like any other taxes, could be utilities and so forth. They will find all those out and adjust it, and that's as part of the sale price there. They will do the settling of the property on your behalf. So they will actually then do all the paperwork, sit down with the solicitors from the other party, and then effectively they will notify you on the day that the transaction has gone through to say everything's been settled. They'll contact the bank, released all the money, everything's been paid, and you're basically sitting around in a coffee shop having a cup of coffee while all the transactions have been done. You don't need to attend any sort of meetings to sign things at that stage. It's all done up front, and they will look after you in that regard. They will represent your interest in everything relating to the whole of the transaction. There are three parts to what they do. They help you in this pre-contract arrangement. So before you actually are signing the contract, let's say they can read all the information that you require before it becomes a legal sort of transaction. They will do all the paperwork, everything's required up until just before the completion. So they'll get all the paperwork ready for the actual transaction. And of course, in the post-completion stage, they're dealing with the banks to get everything done and making sure all the documents are lodged with the appropriate government authorities and so forth. For the majority of single dwellings, the cost for conveyancing is somewhere between $800 to $2,500 to get the whole transaction done. As I said, my daughter only paid $150 for her to do that sort of like pre-contract arrangement. So that was delightful. I thought that was very, very generous of the conveyancer in that regard. But yes, to do the whole thing from go to woe, obviously it depends on complexity of what other things are involved. But somewhere between $800 to $2,500. Now, if you think you can do it to save yourself $1,000 to $2,000, well, I must admit, to me, $1,000 extra or so, peace of mind, making sure it's all done, makes sure it's all legal, and you're not going to be missing out, I think, is a pretty cheap fee, really, in that case. The fees are generally a capital expense, meaning it's a cost of getting in, so they are not something that you can claim as a tax deduction in that first year, unless you're living in the ACT, as we explained on an earlier session, in which case you could indeed claim the conveyancer in that year if it was a rental property. If you're looking for a good conveyancer, your mortgage broker is probably someone you might want to talk to. Most mortgage brokers have a conveyancer that they like dealing with because they someone they can trust, know will do a good job, know that their client will be looked after. Normally a mortgage broker wouldn't get a kickback from a conveyancer, but it's just really just a referral simply because they want to see their clients be looked after. So it's probably not a bad place, but the usual sort of story, if you know someone who's been through it, what were their experiences with their conveyancer and so forth. So getting a good one, I'll say probably if you get one who literally specialises just in conveyancing, and probably a conveyancing that knows your area, might have some advantages, especially on the state level, to know exactly what rules and regulations and so forth apply. So you might be buying a property interstate. Does your Canberra-based conveyancer understand some of the quirks perhaps in Queensland? Anyway, have a chat, work out what you need to do, but certainly a step that can indeed save you a lot of stress. Look forward to you joining me again on another session.